What's up, everybody? Welcome to the final round. I'm your host, Isaiah. Today, I'm going to be breaking down the UFC Fight Night card of Derrick Lewis versus Tallison Teixeira. That's taking place this weekend, July 12th, in Nashville, Tennessee, at the Bridgestone Arena. Pretty decent card, a lot of weird odds. So let's get right into the card. First fight of the night, we have Fatima Klein versus Melissa Martinez. They have Fatima Klein listed as a minus 1200 favorite right now. I do agree. I do think she's going to end up winning due to the wrestling advantage she's going to have. Martinez, I don't think is going to be able to defend the wrestling too well, but I don't think it's worth, minus 1200 odds. I don't know what kind of crack Vegas is smoking, but yeah, it's a bit weird because Tima Klein's coming off that KO over Victoria Juzukova, and um, Nulis is coming off the win to Elise Arlene. Um, yeah, I think Fatima will end up taking this fight just due to her wrestling advantage. Yeah. Moving on, we have Mitch Ramirez versus Mike Davis. Interesting fight. Also, more interesting odds. We got Mike Davis sitting at a minus 1,000 currently. I do think Mike Davis does beat Mitch Ramirez. There's a lot of controversy regarding Mike Davis's last fight. Supposed to, everyone thought he was going to go in and win the fight. End up losing to Fareed Ziam. Um, there was rumors that they just painted the walls and it affected him, but it was definitely a different. It wasn't the Mike Davis we're used to seeing, but he does. He's not too active. Um, Kind of fights to fuel his streaming career, but against a guy like Mitch Ramirez, I think Mike Davis is the more technical fighter and the more well-rounded fighter, even though he doesn't fight as often as Mitch Ramirez does. But I mean, Mitch Ramirez hasn't really shown anything in the UFC. He's only lost to Thiago Moises, and that's about it. So yeah, I think Mike Davis ends up taking this fight. Yeah. Moving on, we have Kennedy Nchekwu versus Walter Walker. And for anyone who watched our prospect shakeup list video that we just released, me and my co-host Jake debated about putting Walter Walker on our prospect list, and we ended up doing it because I think he deserves to be on the list. Because in terms of where the heavyweight division is at, in terms of contenders, it's abysmal. It's dog shit. And when you have a guy like Walter Walker, where he only does have 2 wins, um, last time I checked, which has definitely changed since then, but like 6 months ago or something, there was 30 active UFC heavyweights, which means half of them are ranked, half of them are not. And if that's the same, Walter Walker is a top prospect in that division. He hasn't beaten the best guys, but yeah, Kennedy is also a guy I like. I liked him at light heavyweight. When he fought Carlos Ulberg in Ulberg's debut, I was rooting for him. Just because I didn't like Carlos, and he ended up winning that fight. But at light heavyweight, he had his if iffy moments. Had some wins, had some losses. Lost to Ovid St. Preux, which is something that stands out. But moving up to heavyweight, he's definitely filling out more, and you know doesn't have to cut the weight, and he's looking more confident in himself. But I am going to choose Walter Walker just because I think once Walter does get it to the ground, Kennedy has not shown any ability or any idea of what to do to get off the ground. So if Walter can get this to the ground, I think he does submit Kennedy. But if he stays on the feet, Walter's striking compared to Kennedy is worldly, and Kennedy will knock him out. So my pick is Walter Walker, and I hope he wins because I'm going to have to rub it in Jake's face because I have to. I'm petty. I'm petty. But yeah. Moving on, we have Lauren Murphy versus Eduardo Mora. I am 100% going with Eduardo Mora to win this fight. Lauren Murphy has not fought in 2 years, and she's coming off that really bad loss to Jessica Andrade. Um, and before that, she had a win over Misha Tate, who nothing good. Before that, got TKO'd by Valentina Shevchenko in the title fight. So she hasn't really been too active at all. Um, she's 41 years old. And Eduarda, definitely the younger fighter, only 31 years old. But it's not nothing. Lauren Murphy kind of depended in her prime on being tough and gritty and just outlasting girls and getting to a decision and winning. And against it's a girl like Mora. I don't think she's gonna be able to do that, especially at her age and especially after 2 years off. So I think Eduardo Mora definitely takes this fight. So yeah. Moving on, we got Jake Matthews versus Chidi Njokuani. Um, a lot Very interesting fight. Let's see a lot of people riding Chidi side. Um, Chidi at welterweight has definitely been better since he than middleweight, but I don't know. There's just something about him that doesn't scream out to me like he's gonna get into the top of this division and become a problem. I don't see that. He's 36 years old. He's past his prime. I don't. And cutting weight at 36 years old down here. No, I don't see. I think I think Jake Matthews, you know, honestly, is going to be able to take this fight. He is coming in as the underdog in this fight, but he's been in the UFC for a good chunk of his career. He started young. He does have a loss to Matthew Sellensberger back in 2022, which Matthew Sellensberger, the way he fell from grace, makes that loss look a lot worse than it should be. But I don't know. I've not been too sold on Chitty at welterweight. Yes, he's beaten Zaleski, Jared Gooden, and Reese McKee in his last three fights. Those aren't no notable guys, but and Dick Matthews beating Phil Rowe and then Francisco Prado. And honestly, I think I think Jake Matthews takes this fight. I think he's going to be able to outwork Chitty. I think Jake Matthews is a bit underrated, so I'm picking him. Terrible breakdown by me, but whatever. Then we got the featured prelim of the night. We have Max Payne Griffin versus Chris Curtis. Chris Curtis um, moving down to welterweight again. He fought welterweight before he joined the UFC. Um, but he's going back down at an interesting point in his career. He's 37 years old. He's coming off those back-to-back losses to Roman Kopylov and Brendan Allen. Um, and before that, he had a win over Mark Andre Barrio, and that was a split decision. So, past five fights, he's not been looking too good. And his last fight is listed as a KO loss to Roman Kopylov. It wasn't. It was an earthly stoppage. There was like 1-2 seconds left in the fight or round. They shouldn't have stopped it. It was bullshit. But Max Griffin is also another guy who's on the back end of his career, and he's coming off that loss to Mike Chiesa. But he is a natural welterweight. But I think when you know Chris has really good takedown defense in my opinion, and moving down a division just gonna I think keep his takedown defense even better. And I think he has a lot better boxing and striking than Max Griffin does. So I do think Chris ends up winning this fight. But I will say this: do not be surprised if he loses and throws a hissy fit because Chris Curtis, it might be the saltiest motherfucker I have ever seen. He has been screwed a couple times, but he bitches and moans and whines worse than Strickland sometimes. So yeah. And speaking of which, I'm surprised Chris Curtis did not get suspended. And I'm surprised Sean Strickland hasn't because of their little fiasco at Tough Enough, where they both entered the cage to confront a fighter, and Sean Strickland threw a punch at him. So yeah, it's a whole nother story for another episode. But yeah, I'm picking Chris Carter to win this fight, but yeah. And then moving on to the first fight on the main card, we have Junior Tafa versus Tuco Tokos. Junior Tafa moving down in weight from heavyweight to light heavyweight. Honestly, I think is a great idea. At heavyweight, he kind of was just a skinny, fat heavyweight, similar to what Nate Diaz was at welterweight. Um, but I've seen the photos. He does look in great shape, but you can be in great shape coming into a fight and still lose the fight because Junior Tafa, while he is, Samoan and he's got that power that can shut the lights off of anybody, other than that, he really isn't much. He's a decent kickboxer, but if he gets to the ground and he gets grappling, he's got nothing. He's shown he has nothing, and he can't get off the ground. And Tuco Tokos, coming off a loss to Navajo Sterling, he did show in that fight. He's got decent wrestling, and he took down Navajo and controlled him a little bit. So it's an interesting fight. I think going down the power is going to translate really well for Junior Tafa, and if he does land that shot, he will knock Tuco out. But relying on Tafa to land that one perfect shot, I don't know. It's hard to pick him because yeah, I might pick Junior Tafa to win, but honestly, don't be surprised if Tuco Tokos can come in here and get the victory. But honestly, the loser of this fight gets cut, in my opinion. But yeah, I got Junior Tafa, unfortunately. And then moving on, we've got Vitor Petrino versus Austin Lane. Vitor Petrino moving up to heavyweight after his back-to-back losses to Anthony Smith by guillotine in the first round and then got knocked out by Dustin Jacoby in the third. And I'm gonna preface this first before I say anything. I do not fucking like Vitor Petrino. Yeah, you're in the UFC. Yeah, you're all right, but you do not have the drive and motivation to want to win these fights. You lose to Anthony Smith. You're laughing, high fiving people. Having a good time. Like first loss, okay, but you want to be mad. You want to feel that, and then coming into the Dustin Jacoby fight, no, same thing. Smiles, laugh. Didn't show any care, and then after the fight, after getting put out cold, you know, didn't really, wasn't pissed. He doesn't show like he has a motivation or a um drive to win fights. Like he just shows up for a paycheck. Is in my opinion. And it fucking pains me to say that because I'm picking him to win this fight because on the other side we have bottom of the barrel heavyweight Austin Lane. And does a bottom of the barrel heavyweight beat somebody like Vitor Petrino? And I don't think so. Then Austin Lane is a former NFL guy coming in, and all the casuals come and think, oh, NFL, this dude's got power. He's gonna knock some people out. No, he's got no power in the striking. He's got some power in the striking. He's heavyweight. His striking is not that good. He's a grappler. That's what he does. That's what he does best. And he's got not the greatest run in the UFC. He has one no contest, three losses, and then has a win over Robelis to Spain, where he just held him on the ground for all three rounds. He's been knocked out by Justin Tafa, Jonathan Deniz, and Mario Pinto. I do think Vitor wins this fight because Austin Lane I don't think is anything good. But honestly, if Vitor gets knocked out, I won't be mad because I do not like Vitor. Dude shows that he doesn't care to fight. So yeah, who cares about this fight? But my pick is Vitor. And then moving on, we've got Nate Landwehr versus Morgan Charrier. I don't know if I pronounced that right. Um, I'm going to pick. I wanted to pick Morgan Charrier, but this dude hasn't won a fight unless he's in Paris. That's the thing. He's lost all these other fights. Like he got dropped bad by a tiny Nate Wood in his last fight. Um, got beaten by Champion Mariscal, which okay, that's a pretty good fighter in my opinion. Champion Mariscal is pretty good, but honestly, and I love Nate Landwehr. He's great, but in this fight, I think Morgan's just a better fighter. He carries the more power. He carries the more athleticness and technicality. And Nate Landwehr is kind of just a brawler who, in my opinion, was losing his last couple of fights. Got beaten by Duhor Troy in his last fight, and the Jamal Emmers fight he was losing up until he won. In my opinion, he lost to Danny Gay, and other than that, he beat David Onama, but that fight was weird in my opinion. But he doesn't have the best record, and I just think that Morgan's going to be able to pull it out a win, even though Morgan's French, and the French are not good fighters. They're good fight. I'm gonna get hate for this, but the French, I don't. They have proven as of late that they don't do well in the UFC. The best of them, Cyril Gane. Second, Benoit. Because Imavov, who knows what that dude is? Dagestani or French? Who fucking cares? But I'm gonna pick Morgan Cherry in this fight. I think he's just gonna land the better shots, and I think he's gonna honestly be able to drop Nate Landwehr at some point. And I don't think he finishes him, so I think he gets the decision. But should be a good fight. And moving on to our featured battle of the night, we've got Calvin Kattar versus Steve Garcia. Um, Steve Garcia, riding a good 5 fight knockout streak. So he's got hype coming into this fight. But let's look at these fights that he's won. All right, Chase Hooper, prepubescent Chase Hooper, he knocked out in 2022. Before Chase Hooper is who he is now. Then you got Cylon Noradin Bieke, whatever, knocked him out. Mel Costa, ground and pound. Sungwoo Choi, knockout the first round, and then Kyle Nelson, knockout first round. Decent fighters, but when you compare them to the resume of Calvin Kattar, it does not match. And yes, Calvin is riding a 4 fight losing streak, but honestly, I consider it a 3 fight because that Josh Emmett fight, I think he still won. There's no way Josh Emmett won that fight. And then the Arnold Allen fight got injured, so that's kind of a fluke loss. And then just got out wrestled by Aljamain Sterling, and then Yusuf Salal just kind of danced around the outside for all 3 rounds, and Calvin just couldn't land the shots. And his last win is 2022 against Giga Chikadze, and honestly, I'm going to pick the underdog. I'm going to pick Calvin in this fight. Steve may come in and win this fight and upset me, but I don't see a way Steve can come in and win this fight because he's coming in and keeps his head down and he unloads on his opponents fast and hard. And I don't think he starches a guy like Calvin within the first 2 rounds. Calvin, I think, is just far too durable for that and far too experienced. This you got to remember, Calvin took all those shots from Max Holloway, and he did not. He could that fight should have been stopped multiple times, but he stayed in it, dude. The fight continued, and he stayed in it, throwing back every chance he got. And honestly, I think his experience and durability. I think once this gets pushed into the later rounds, I think Calvin's just gonna find his shots, and he's training now with what was it? Oh, I can't remember. I think it was with Faraz Zahabi. I can't remember the name, but he's training with them like Rob Fonners, and I think it's actually helping him. And I think there's gonna be a big step up for Steve Garcia, and I think it's gonna be too much of a step up. I think Calvin ends up taking this fight, and I think he wins by decision. So it should be a good fight, and I think Calvin keeps his ranking. Sorry, cat's being crazy. And moving on, we've got the co-main event of the evening, we've got Stephen Wonderboy Thompson versus one of our prospects, Gabriel Bonfim. I'm going to pick Gabriel Bonfim to win this fight, but against a guy like Wonderboy, you can never be too sure. Wonderboy, even at his age of like 41 years old, is still a problem for all these guys. Like you watch the Joaquin Buckley fight, he was winning that fight until Buckley landed the knockout shot. Um, what else? He beat Kevin Holland, but Kevin Holland screwed himself and decided not to go for any takedowns. Lost to Shavkat, but Shavkat's wrestling was too much for him. Bilal Muhammad, wrestling. Gilbert Burns, wrestling. You see a trend with these recent losses, and it's based off of these, wrestling kind of guys. And that's what kind of Von Thiem does well, is get to the ground, choke you out, and win. And I think in this fight, you're going to see Von Thiem get frustrated and struggle with Wonderboy's distance, range, and striking. And he's going to just say, screw it, take down Wonderboy and lock in a choke. And I love Wonderboy. I'd love to see him win. And I think he deserves to have a fight. I don't think he needs to keep fighting these young prospects. He's done it. He's done his due. Give him a veteran to fight. Give him a good win. But I think Gabriel Bonfim just takes him down, and I think he submits him within 2 rounds. And I think he cements himself or catapults himself into the top 15. And like, hey, I'm another prospect coming up in this welterweight division. I think he does well. So, yeah, I'm picking Gabriel Bonfim by second round submission. And then moving on, we've got the main event of the evening. We've got the Black Beast, Derrick Lewis, versus still UFC newcomer Tallison Teixeira. And this is a very interesting fight because Tallison's only had one fight in his UFC career, and that was at UFC 312 um, against Justin Tafa, who, let's be honest, fucking Justin Tafa at heavyweight is like whatever, like Tai Tuivasa, Junior Tafa, Derrick Lewis, these guys waiting for the big power shot to land and put your lights out. And considering Tallison is fucking 6'7" and has an 83-inch reach advantage, he can pick his opponents off that distance, but he has a tendency, and he does get hit quite a bit in his fights. He got pieced up a bit by Arthur Lopez in his Contender Series fight, but he's gotten the win each time. And against a guy like Derrick Lewis, Derrick on the back end of his career, coming off of that win over uh, Rodrigo Nascimento, where he knocked him out in the third round. Um, I think this might be too much too soon. I get heavyweight is, you know, in terms of young prospects and contenders, abysmal. Doesn't have anybody really, and they're trying to get these young guys up into the top so they can get new fights because Walter Walker, Tallison Teixeira, these kind of guys, while we don't care for them and they're not really that good, who else are we gonna, who else is there? To be honest, right? Like, I'll be honest, the UFC heavyweight rankings is is completely dog shit. I'm pretty sure Tai Tuivasa, as much as I love Tai Tuivasa, yeah, he's still ranked 10. And when's the last time Tai Tuivasa fought, dude? That division is shallow. Alright? It's dog shit. So I think we're gonna see that again. I think it's too much of a step up. I think Derrick Lewis honestly finds that just doesn't go past a round and a half. So don't blink. I'm gonna pick Derrick Lewis to be too much and just put Tallison's lights out. And honestly, I think I checked. I think Brazilians in main events in 2025 are 0-8 right now, and I think this would make 0-9. So I think the trend keeps going. I think another undefeated fighter loses his undefeated record, and I think Derrick Lewis wins this fight. But yeah, um, that's the breakdown. Pay attention to future videos I'm going to be making. Next week we've got the UFC 318 pay per view. Holloway versus Poirier, Poirier's last fight. And after that, we got the Abu Dhabi card between Robert Whitaker and Reiner de Ritter. And then we got Albazi versus Tara, Delise versus Hernandez, and UFC 319 Duplessis versus Chimaev. So that should be all good cards. And pay attention to any videos me and Jacob we post them. We're definitely gonna do more breakdowns together for the pay per view. So pay attention to that. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Drop a like, drop a comment, subscribe. Anything is appreciated. And thank you guys for watching. And I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.